Welcome to round 4 of the FIA GT Championship, and what a round it's going to be. We're at one of the greatest racetracks in the world, some might say the greatest. This is Spa in Belgium, tucked away in the pine forests of the Ardennes. A 24-hour race attracts new teams and requires more drivers, some more recognisable than others. After winning championships in single-seaters on both sides of the Atlantic, Jacques Villeneuve has turned his attention to endurance racing. And now contests Spa in a Mosler entered by Gravity Racing.
Whenever there's an opportunity to drive on Spa, then I take it lately. But sadly, this is not a winning car or anything. It's really just to be having fun around Spa.
Hard to believe it as they line up in the sunshine now, but 3 qualifying sessions should have set the grid here. But torrential rain drowned out all but the first 15 minutes of the first session. During that quarter of an hour, Vitaphone threw down a mailed gauntlet, claiming the top 3 places, headed by the team's new star performer, Alex Muller.
It's great for the team, 1, 2, 3, and it's for me. It's really to start the 24-hour race on pole. It means something, you know. It's a special pole position.
The GT2 story was less clear-cut. Jörg Bergmeister third for Porsche, Tim Mullen fractionally ahead of him, and then a rather larger gap to the pole man, AF Corsa's Jimmy Bruni.
It's great to be on pole, Jimmy, but it's certainly a long way ahead, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very long race. It's good to be in pole. It was good Thursday to have the pole position, but now it's the race. It looks very difficult for everyone, but we'll see. I'm looking forward. It will be very interesting and challenging race.
This one race is longer than the rest of the season added together. It's going to be about 4,000 kilometres. That's 2,500 miles. We'll use 500 sets of tyres, burn about 100,000 litres of fuel, as they cover anywhere from 480 laps to just under 600, depending on the weather. And we are promised sunshine, but then again, don't forget, this is Spa.
Maseratis first, second and third. Little bit of a swap going into the corner there. On board in the number 3 Corvette. We're riding with Oliver Gavin briefly there, looking at the back end of the number 8 Corvette. That was Enrique Benoldi. It's Muller from Bertolini, from Pierre Guidi. Braking steadily at the end of the Camel Straight. That's a little bit more orderly now that we've settled down. There's an awful long way to go. And that looked like Benoldi. Yes, he has. He's moved up. Enrique Benoldi has taken Alessandro Pierguidi, the Corvettes, and the Ford GT queuing up behind the 33 Maserati as well. The number 70 Porsche leads GT2 by the look of that. On board again in number 3 with Ollie Gavin. You can see little clouds of smoke there from the brakes as Gavin makes his move now, goes up the inside of Alessandro Pierguidi. Again, Bertolini tries it at the front. And this time Alex Muller makes no resistance, moves out high. There are 2 ways to come into this hairpin, but that leaves the door very much open for the inside line. And we do have a new race leader heading down the hill. Bertolini from Muller, from Benoldi. Alessandro Pierguidi. Gavin didn't get past the Ford GT of Baz Linders. Looking good there with Hazeman in the background. Here comes Benoldi at the end of the Camel Straight, though. Just powers past Alex Muller. a little bit later on the brakes as well. The Corvette liking the circuit much more than the Maserati at the moment, or, as we say, perhaps running to a completely different strategy. Vitaphone pits, reading the data. Here's Benoldi on the number one, on the race leader, the other side now. He's done it again, look, straight through. Another good, oh, Bertolini didn't want to let that go, but he didn't have much choice. The Corvette overpowered him on the straight, late braked him as they again come on that smoking BMW. And Benoldi for Team Sangari Brazil, new to the championship for this weekend. And that's the team pits at Sangari. DKR Racing running that Corvette. This is a GT2 leader. This is the IMSA Performance Porsche, looking very strong early on in the race, as indeed is Benoldi. And look who he's got behind him, Oliver Gavin. It's Corvette, Corvette, Maserati, Maserati, and then Corvette, Maserati. And this top six still together. It's a 24-hour race, but nobody seems to have told these boys, and they are going at it as if it was just a sprint race. In the cockpit with Alex Muller, new to the team this year and very much a rising star at Vitaphone Maserati. Very quick in this car when he's given the opportunity and a bit of track to play on. And just closing up on one of the cars that started from pit lane here and mixing it with the tail enders. That was the Jet Alliance Porsche on the left there. 4 or 5 cars began this race from pit lane for various qualifying infringements. Hazeman is now in the thick of that Maserati group and has moved up one more place. Corvette, Corvette, Maserati, Corvette. He's only got one more to go, and Bertolini is the next man in his sights, and it'll make it a Corvette 1, 2, 3. The Vitaphone crew watching this as the Corvettes make the most of this dry Spa track and demolish their entries. But we don't know, and here is Hazeman being snapped up. No, he's not. Just dropped back there, and Muller moved up on him. It's Oliver Gavin who's making the running now, challenging Benoldi out of La Source. Door handle to door handle at 200 kilometres an hour and hard on the gas. 240, 250, 260. Has Gavin done it? They are side by side in Eau Rouge. As that's the GT2 leader, and it's not the GT2 second place that's giving him grief there going through the bus stop. It's the G3 Pro Speed car. Second place in GT2 is Bruni in number 50, and nowhere to be seen on our screens. So Patrick Pilet doing sterling work in the number 70 car. Wet tyres appearing in pit lane. Oh, Muller caught out, and that was Bruni, wasn't it? That was one of the AF Corsa Ferraris, and that's the number 8 car, the Sangari Corvette, after a big crash at Radial. Roberto Streit, only on his second flying lap after taking over from Enrique Benoldi. And that is the promised rain, and this time it is heavy. It's full circuit rain. Hazeman behind Bartels, they're both on slicks. This water demands wets, and they've got a whole lap of 4.5 miles, 7 kilometres ahead of them before they can get wet tyres. And this really is a testing situation for any race driver. Vitaphone getting the wet tyres out in pit lane, but it looked a lot drier on the top of the circuit. There's dampness here. You can see the wipers are on, and the Corvette alongside doesn't make it through. But the situation's so different between pit lane and the top part of the circuit there. And look here, as they start the run down the back, it is bone dry still out here. It's dark and cloudy, and you can see the rain clouds hanging over the other end of the racetrack. But this part of the circuit certainly works on slick tyres. But ahead of them, the rain is lashing down on pit lane, and absolutely crucial to be on wet tyres here. Oh, and that's the Villeneuve-Moser. Jacques Villeneuve has just got into the Gravity Racing Mosler, and obviously was one of the first to discover that it's dry in one place and raining elsewhere. 3 cars involved, and as he bounces off the wall, I think Villeneuve has come off worst of all. The rain absolutely lashing down here, as you can see.
Just it started raining heavily and we're in slicks, and slowed down a lot, but I hit a puddle in aquaplane, so very disappointing because we weren't doing too bad.
And your race leader at the moment is Stéphane Sarrazin. Kumpen being chased there by the 33 Maserati driven by Stéphane Lemeret, boxed in around the GT2 cars, and Kumpen has been passed on the run downhill there. Didn't have much of a choice. The track was full, he had nowhere to go, and the situation just went well for the Maserati. And now the place is gone, so Stéphane Lemeret moves up into second spot. Kumpen goes down to third. He won't be happy about that, but it's going to happen again and again in 24 hours. Certain times, some cars will get in your way, and other times they'll get in someone else's way. And at that moment, it got in Kumpen's way, and it's just one of those things. Balloonists rising above the circuit signal the arrival of better weather. Bert Langier there, wide-eyed after an hour in the rain, but now the sun is setting over Spa on a perfect evening as dusk arrives. And that's the number 70 car. That was Raymond Narak having taken over from Patrick Long, and the front of that looks a little bit wobbly. It may well be that it's worse than just a spin. There's a bit of debris on track there, and half the front end is missing. That's steam. There are radiators in the front end of a Porsche, and that looks like quite serious damage, although it clearly still running. Night falling now at Spa, but the racing continues. The number 50 Ferrari leads 51 in GT2 now. The Pro Speed Porsche now up to third place, so the championship battle there between AF Corsa and Pro Speed is now very much on, although, as you can see from the countdown timer, there's an awful long way to go. Vitaphone still dealing with 2 pit stops at once. The battle for the lead between 3 and 4, the Corvettes, and all 3 Maseratis continues. All 5 of them still on the same lap. It's early morning at Spa, the total 24 hours just halfway over. More than 4 of the championship's regular 2-hour race distances still to run, though, and there's been drama in the camp. Just after midnight, the number 1 Maserati hit the barriers hard enough to require the Armco to be repaired. That took an hour under yellows, but the car took 3 hours and lost 65 laps. 33 T-boned one of the Mullner Porsches and lost 10 laps. But at daybreak, the leading trio of cars was still separated by a gap of just 3 seconds. More than that, they've been trading fast laps all night as this race continues to run at the same unforgiving pace it began yesterday afternoon at. The Corvettes going at it as if it was just a 2-hour sprint, and currently heading the field. Jos Menton at the front, leading Bert Langin. Both drivers recently into their seats, with Alex Müller third in the Vitaphone Maserati in the second hour of his current stint, but he's on fresh tyres from a recent pit stop. That's what the leaderboard tells us about this situation, but there is still an awful long way to go, and Alex Müller is in trouble. A puncture and a broken wheel, and out of the car now and walking back to pit lane. His race is over, and that has defused the squabble at the front rather more than was already the case. This is Bert Langin, and the timing will show number 2 in second place for the next 16 laps until it catches up. The gap now at the front bigger than it's ever been. Just closing up on the JMB Ferrari in GT2 and lapping it 21 seconds behind is Menton in the number 4 Corvette. The big gap now will be between second and third places, and the 2 Corvettes now have got more hours to squabble among themselves, as they have been doing all night long, setting their own fastest laps, the race fastest laps in the darkness. This is the 111 Audi of Mark Bosseng, leads G2 of course. He was in 4th place overall, but he's now going to come 3rd place when that car completes enough laps to pass the stationary number 2 Maserati, as it inevitably will. And that is an extraordinary set of circumstances. Goliath meet David. Vanson Voss, couple of laps behind, however, the 111 car. Vitaphone's only hope of a decent outcome and will surely take that place away in the fullness of time. Martin Ragginger, second in GT2 after the 51 car had a gearbox fail in the night. 50 leads the class. Both the CRS Ferraris had tyre pressure issues yesterday, and now they've both had starter motor issues in the night, which means they can't restart the cars after they've made pit stops. And this is not so good for the number 3 Corvette. Engine issues that was leading by a growing margin thanks to Maxime Soulet and then Bert Longin. But now it's lost a lot of laps sat here in pit lane, and that battle that's been raging for 21 hours has been defused. Not quite clear what the problem is. It's been trailing smoke, it's been leaking oil, as you can see, but they're struggling to find out where from. Getting ready to send it back out. And they've forgotten to change the tyres. Lost a little bit more time, and this really has hurt their campaign. This car has been running so fast and so strong, and has been looking on course for a grandstand battle with the number 4 car at the end of the race as they slug it out for victory. But that seems very unlikely now, and some pretty long faces in the SRT pit lane, although they've done a lot of hard work to get it back out on track just now. But Longin clearly not very happy. Jet Alliance won't be too pleased with that. Their Porsche going backwards after a reasonably harmless little spin. And it's back in again. Oliver Gavin, and this time it looks as if he thinks it's permanent. Instead of stopping in pit lane, he's bringing it into the box. And that normally means they want to do some serious work on the car, or they're going to retire it. And there's a decision to make, because they have completed now more than what will be 70% of the race distance. Oh, Bert Longin's face says everything, doesn't it? And all they've got to do is be running at the flag. So if they can patch it up, and that looks increasingly unlikely, looking at the oil on the engine tray there, then they might just scrape a finish. And that's the 121 car stopped on the pit lane entrance. Thomas Much working underneath it to try and get something going. The marshals want to push him clear. That's not a clever place to be parked. This is the Nismo GTR. Darren Turner set its fastest lap about 7 o'clock this morning, but then it had some problems and lost several laps, dropping back to 15th place, now fighting back for a podium finish in GT1 as we join Jamie Mello on the Camel Straight, the GT2 leader by 5 laps from the number 97 Porsche. So everything's looking fairly good for them and their championship plan. This is Bert Longin running downhill, back on track to claim a finish with their Belgian driver at the wheel, but obviously running well below the car's potential. Oil pressure is the big problem, and they're just trying to nurse it now to the checkered flag. This is the there's a fire on the back end of that car. It's been in the wars, hasn't it? I think that's just rubber which bunches up inside the firewall and then burns away. And Mike Hazeman there, Jos Menten on the pit lane waiting for this. Look at this, they formed up behind Kurt Mollekins in the number 4 car. Nobody told them to do that, but it's a finish in style, a photo finish as they all come round and fill the track at Spa. The end of the 24-hour race, and they're on the pit wall, on their feet in the grandstands. The flags are waving, the marshals are out on track as they head towards the finish line, waiting for the checkered flag to end the total 24 hours at Spa. Victory for PK Racing. Mike Hazeman celebrated his birthday yesterday. Vitaphone get a result out of this, as they always do. Oh, what a performance from everybody involved here. And Bruni, Villander and Mello and Compact win GT2.
And when everything died down, this is how it all finished. Pro Speed Competition taking 4th and 5th places behind CRS Racing in 3rd, Brixia Racing 2nd, but AF Corsa on top.
Was difficult. We made it, and my first win in 24 hours, so very, very happy.
They may be exhausted after 24 hours of racing, but they've still got the energy to celebrate on top of the GT2 podium. And there's been a change of leadership in GT2 as well. Victory for AF Corsa hands the lead to Jimmy Bruni and Tony Villander. But the big celebrations are reserved for the winners. Championships aside, finishing this race is something big. But winning it is biggest of all, and can't you just tell by watching PK Racing celebrate their victory? Here's the final result, and you can't help thinking there's a great big smile at Phoenix Racing for that 3rd place. But the big win is a great birthday present for Mike Hazemans.
Life starts at 40, they say, so that's good. No, it was fantastic. We're leading championship. We really, really wanted to win, so we really pushed hard. So we did it. That was really good.
You heard it from Mike Hazemans. Victory, while the #1 car was in deep trouble, gives him and Anthony Kumpen that narrow 1-point lead. This is their 2nd consecutive visit to the top step of an FIA GT podium, though they aren't usually quite as frantic as this. But they do all have a brilliant race to celebrate. We're back at the end of August at the Hungaroring, starting the 2nd half of the season.